Thanks for stopping by. I'd like to preface this video by saying it is not a knitting tutorial, but a means to have something playing in the background while you work on your own knitting project. If you're like me, you find that you really like YouTube, but several hours in you've watched a lot of videos but haven't really knit at all. So this is definitely for something to have in the background and not as visually engaging. But at the beginning of my videos, I do like to show you what I'm working on before I also start to work on my own project. So today is Saturday, and you'll be watching this in the future, but it is, I think, the World Knit in Public Day. Unfortunately, I had a lot of housework to do, which is also why I'm filming very late in the evening. It's going on probably 7:30, 8 o'clock right now, and I will be knitting in public tomorrow because tomorrow's Sunday and it's my monthly book club. So today, Saturday, I did a lot of housework and got a lot done, and I figured I really wanted to show you guys what I was working on now, which is part of my Knit Ahead for the Holidays series. And if you have been watching my channel, you noticed that I was working on a sock before, maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, and I finished it, and I totally butchered the whole thing. It's a shoddy job, but I got it done and I learned a lot, and I'm working on the second sock now. And so that is what we're doing today. It is the Ray Light pattern by Tin Can Knits, and the pattern is available on Ravelry.com as well as their website. And I'll link below in my description box the links to get to the materials. And I will say, learning curve, if you haven't knit a sock before, which was my first normal style knit sock, I should have used their suggestion and looked at their website for a how-to, and I will talk about that now. So happy Saturday. So we have the project I'm working on now. So this is the Ray Light sock. You'll see there's a garter stitch pattern in the middle of the foot, and then it's just a general stockinette all the way around besides that front part. And please don't laugh, but if you do, I don't blame you. Here is the one that I knit completely, the first sock. And you'll notice down the middle of the foot, you'll even notice in the video that I had of this that I was mentioning how it was really tricky to purl if you're starting on a DPN, and it turns out through their website they tell you you should probably, or they do say, you should cast on the half of your stitches on one needle and then 1/3 on another DPN and 1/3 on another, so that it's split 2/3, 1/3, 1/3. And I should have done that because I wouldn't have run into that weird purly issue that I was explaining in the previous video. And Kitchener stitch. This actually, is this the toe? Yes. It doesn't look too bad, honestly, the Kitchener stitch here, but I had to start over maybe 4 or 5 times because somebody was trying to talk to me while I was looking at the pattern, and they had instructions on how to do Kitchener stitch and their Ravelry pattern, and I started over because I kept losing track of which stitch was on the needle and then which one I had to let go, and it was just a mess. So these are not going to be gifts. I originally thought maybe they would work out if I did a really good job, but these are just going to be for me. So now that I've learned a lot from that pattern, the next time I knit this, I'm going to be a lot more careful. I probably have worked out all the other kinks in the second sock so that the next time I do it, it's going to come out looking great, and then I can actually give it away as a gift, which is why I'm knitting ahead for the holidays. So if this is the first time you're watching a video out of the Knit Ahead for the Holidays series on my channel, the goal is to have all of my holiday projects done by the time I have to ship them off to my family and in December for the holiday season. And it's June now, actually. Today is the 8th of June in 2019. So I have a few months to go, but with my work schedule and life and doing other things, and the fact that I've only been knitting for about 1.5 years now and not very speedy at it, and I have a lot of gifts that I would like to knit, this is where the series came in. So here I will show you where I am, and then hopefully I will stop showing you things so we can both just start knitting and you don't have to keep looking at me and what I'm up to. But here we have, like I showed you, I've done the rib knit, 1x1 rib for the cuff, and I'm still working on the leg part of the foot, or of the sock, before I can start doing the foot. And I was knitting this downstairs in my living room area, and I took it with me a couple trips into town just to work on, actually I was knitting in the park last Sunday because my partner and I wanted to go into the city, and it was a nice day, and I really want to get ahead on this sock because I had been so bummed out from all the weirdness and the other one, and looking at the pattern tutorial or helpful guide so late that I was like, oh man, so let me just get this done, start a new one, hope that this comes out better. And so far so good. I definitely love how it looks very uniform on this garter stitch part of the front of the sock. And so at this point I want to measure it because it should be 6.5 inches before I reserve the front and start shaping the heel and doing the heel flap and all that good stuff. And I couldn't, ooh, something is tickling me, I'm sorry. Whoa. Okay. I wanted to make sure that I didn't knit too far ahead because I think the last time when I was knitting the first sock, I was on a roll and I just kept knitting, and I measured it, and I don't think it was quite 6.5. It might have even been 7 before I started shaping the heel. And I don't want to make them too misshapen, even though they're just for me. I would like to try my best to keep at least some of these parts consistent, so when it's done it looks nice. So let me see on the original, or at least the first sock, how far I knit. And if you're new to my channel, I don't have a tape measure, I have straight rulers, so I'm hoping maybe by next month. I actually have a tripod, by the way. This is being held up by a tripod, which I'm so happy. I don't have to duct tape shoe boxes and cat scratchers together to get the height I need. It's not the best quality, but for what I can budget right now, it's holding up pretty well. And it even fits my phone and the little clampy thing without me having to take it out of its case, because it has a kind of a bulky case, and I would like it to not nosedive at my head and break or something like that. So I'm glad I can still keep the case on it. So if for some reason the tripod fails, my phone is still protected. But other things I have not yet purchased that would make my life so much easier is a tape measure for knitting or for fabric measuring in general. So I have this straight ruler, and I'm actually not sure how far I should. Okay, I think I need to measure like right here to here, because that's when I started doing the heel part before I started picking up the stitches again to make this gusset. I think that's what it's called. So let me try to see from that point. This is going to be pretty rough, but when did I stop? Okay. Okay, so it looks like I was probably at, I would say, without stretching it, maybe like 7.5 before I started reserving my stitches. And the garter side is shorter than the stitch part on the back because the garter stitches are shorter than a knit stitch, and I don't, oh yeah, this makes sense. Once it got wonky is a good point to measure, because that's when I stopped knitting on DPNs when I would purl as the first stitch, because having the half of the stitches on one DPN and then 2/3 split between two others, or 1/3 on one, 1/3 on the other, I only had to knit at the beginning of each DPN, which made so much easier for me. And I'm like, oh, I just should have looked at their instructions the first time. So if you're going to do this pattern, go to their website if you haven't knit socks before and look at their suggestions so you can work this pattern the way it should look and not the way I did it. Alright, so it does seem that I was able to the front part does look to be about 6.5, where it was really getting weird. Yeah, okay, so the back is a little bit longer because of that knit. So we'll do 6.5, call it a day, and then continue with the shaping of the heel. And right now I am at about 5 1/4 stitches, so have some ways to go, which is perfect, so we can just keep chatting and get into it. Alright, make sure I am starting on the right part. Okay, cool. So yes, so I mentioned most of the day I was doing housework. I usually do my housework on the weekends because then I have time to really concentrate on everything I need to do. I do have to call maintenance to get my drain downstairs for the laundry unclogged. It's been acting up crazy and I've tried to plunge it and snake it myself. And this happens about once a year where it gets bad, so they just have to come and do it really quick, which is fine. And I did some floor work, like sweeping, got dishes washed. I even made some cookies, so after I'm done filming, while I wait for everything to upload and convert, I'll be having some cookies. I'm so excited. I love to bake. That's one of the hobbies that I have besides knitting, is baking. I like to cook too, but I find baking more gratifying because the item that I prepared lasts longer, and at least in my home, it lasts longer than when I cook. I don't do any meal prep or anything like that, so if I have leftovers, they last maybe a couple more days after, depending on what I made. But the effort it takes to cook and to just have one delicious meal versus several many snacks throughout the week, I just find that baking is more satisfying. Though I love to cook too. I think all food is delicious, but I definitely prefer baking. So let me know in the comments, do you have another hobby besides arts and crafts that you enjoy? Do you like to bake or cook or garden? Do you volunteer at an animal shelter? I actually very, very briefly was fostering cats based on my interests in having a lot of cats. I really, really like cats and love them, actually. And I have 2 of my own, and I wanted to add more, but because of pet restrictions and things like that, since I am a renter, it wasn't feasible to add many. But considering where I live now, there wasn't a clear, defined pet policy. They just said they allow pets. They didn't say what kind. They didn't say how many. And instead of jumping in the deep end and getting more cats, I tried fostering, and it was really fun. I fostered twice with the shelter that 2 of my cats came from, and I found it really rewarding. There were some moments that were really sad, but for the most part I had a lot of fun, and I found it a very valuable experience and a way to give back, because kitties, especially the kittens I was fostering, are just so fragile, and it was a nice way to interact with animals without actually keeping them forever and ever and ever. But my job policies changed a bit. There was some change of management and things like that, and while I needed to have the kittens with me to socialize them and feed them regularly, that was no longer something that was going to be supported by my job. So because I couldn't commit to taking them in like that, and I had to kind of put that on the back burner for now. But I'm hoping one day I will be able to start over and maybe even work with shelters that are closer to where I live, because another issue was that since I don't have a car, getting to the shelter to get the animals either picked up or dropped off, seen by the vet, get medications for them, was becoming really difficult because I would have to make arrangements to get into the town where the shelter was and leave work early and stuff like that. So it was really affecting how everything was going on, so I had to stop. But I have a lot of the supplies, and so I'm ready to go. The next time I have the opportunity to foster kittens, I'll be ready. So I have the experience, and I have everything I need to make sure they live a cozy life here. And it's all very temporary, so even if I feel sad that I had to say goodbye to some of them, I know there are plenty more at the shelter who need me. So if you do think about fostering, please give it a shot. It's really rewarding. It can be very stressful, but you're doing so much for such a vulnerable community of our furry friends that really need people looking out for them. So there's that. And another topic to talk about. Oh my gosh, I haven't been showing you guys what I've been working on. I've just been knitting off camera. I am sorry. That's one thing I have to work on, are the angles. Now that I have a tripod, it'll be easier to adjust what I'm doing, but I don't want to cut off my head too much in the viewfinder, or at least in what you guys can see of me, but at the same time, holding my hands like this is kind of, obviously I keep bringing them down and you can't see me anymore, so gotta work on that. So yeah, I had an interesting bit of Saturday, and tomorrow I'm going into the city, so I'll be knitting in public. Either I'm going to take the train, or I might try to convince my partner to give me a ride if they're willing to go get ramen for dinner after. Because my book club is only a couple hours, and we actually have a really short book to read this time, so I don't even think we're going to be there the full 2 hours. And the ramen shop opens at 5, so that'll give me a little bit of time to kill before we would have to head over there. So maybe not. I mean, I don't mind taking the train, but I think it's going to rain, so walking around in the rain isn't always the funnest thing, though I should be used to it, considering where I came from. Everybody thinks it rains there all the time, but it doesn't. It doesn't. So yeah, trying to plan what I'm going to do for that. But I'm definitely going to be knitting. It's just a matter of where. Am I going to knit at the coffee shop while I wait for my partner to finish with their errands before we go to the city? Am I going to knit while I wait for the train to take me into the city? Are they going to ditch me and I have to take the train back to where we live after my book club? So I'll be knitting on the train again. I don't know. But I will definitely be celebrating the Knit in Public Day a day later than anticipated. But today was just a lot of errand kind of, actually not even errands, just chores. I wanted to get everything done since tomorrow I'll be in the city, and it's literally like a whole day thing just to get there and get back home. So I wouldn't have had any time to do my laundry or any of my other housework tomorrow, because I get home and it's going to be like 6:30, 7 o'clock, depending on, what's going on. So definitely not enough time to prepare, especially since Monday I will be going back to work and I want to rest a little bit Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, just kind of chill and not worry about doing the chores. So I try to do those Sunday morning so I have the afternoon free. But since I'll be busy Sunday, I have to make a mad dash to get everything done Saturday. So one of the things about my chores that I do not like is probably washing dishes. I was spoiled for a long time. I lived in places that had dishwashers, and I only had to hand wash like pots and pans and Tupperware that I did, or storage containers that were plastic and prone to being melted, even on the top rack. You know, depending on what kind of cycle I was washing everything, I didn't want to risk warping anything like that or tarnishing anything, so I would wash that stuff by hand. But dishes, mugs, silverware, I would just throw it in the dishwasher, throw like a little dishwasher pod in there and let it go. I do that a couple times a week since we cook a lot, so we had a lot of dishes used. And now that I live in a different apartment, I don't have that luxury. It didn't come with a washer dry or a dishwasher, so I had to do everything by hand. And it's not so bad, but when you're tired and you don't want to be on your feet anymore, sometimes after cooking and cooking and cooking and then having a whole sink full or 2 sinks full, and in my case of dishes, it's just like the last thing you want to do. But oh, it looks so nice when the dishes are done and the sink's clean and the counter's clean. It's a good look, but it is a chore that I never liked. Even when I was a kid, washing dishes was my least favorite chore. So, do you have any housework that you prefer not to do? Let me know in the comments below. What chore do you hate? What chore do you not mind so much? Or do you love cleaning everything all the time? My favorite chores probably, I wouldn't say laundry because that's not, it kind of does itself, but maybe cleaning the bathroom. I like a nice sparkly bathroom, and as you can see, I have a lot of hair, and my partner actually has a lot of hair too, and we have cats, so there's fur and there's hair like all over the place easily. So cleaning throughout the week and then a deep clean on the weekends is really important, but it's just nice when everything's spick and span. And bathrooms are always something I took pride in, even when I was a kid, because my brother and I had to split the chores, and cleaning the bathrooms once a week was a chore that we did. And I would always have him do like the floors. Like we had to vacuum the corners, get all the dust bunnies, and then sweep it and mop it. And I did the sinks, the mirror, and the toilets because I was kind of a germaphobe about the toilets, but I didn't believe in trusting a little boy to clean the toilets because I knew my brother, and I just didn't want any gross things happening between the sink and the toilet and the tub. So I always wash the toilet, and I do the outside of it first, and then I do the bowl, but I'd like put the comment. We use like that powdery stringent cleaner inside the bowl, and I'd let that sit for a bit and then do the outside, and I'd like do the sponge part, and then I'd wipe it down with a paper towel so I wouldn't like spread germs around, I guess, and then I do the bowl, and I do the sink and the mirror first and then the toilet because I didn't want toilet germs transferring to the sink. I don't know. Maybe you guys do that too, but I was just really paranoid about that. But it always looked good. It always looked really good. So, I gotta keep doing this. I think the next time I do a video, I'll lower it. Might as well just make a sacrifice. so that you guys can see what I'm working on without me straining my hands, which I mentioned before in another video, but it is what it is. But yeah, this one's not doing too bad. I'll show you again. It's just coming along, and I want to say I have all these like little tentacles here. So if you haven't watched the first video I did with this, I cut the band or like the scrap yarn that was holding the hank together, and I mentioned before I made sure I wasn't cutting through the middle of the hank, and for some reason there were just strands and strands and strands of loose yarn when I was winding up the hank of this yarn. And I thought about it when I started this sock, and I'm like, you know what, it's just the cuff part. I'll use those extra strands until I get to the longer part and into the foot, because I didn't want to waste it. And I looked online, and when I was telling you guys about the different colors that they had and that I was able to find this color, I was mistaken. This color is maple. The one on the website, it's I'll link the site again because I can't remember off the top of my head what it was called. The color that kind of looked like this was marigold, and it was definitely more of yellows and not any brown at all. So if I were to run out of yarn in the middle of the sock, that would be it. And I thought about all the strands I had, so I said, okay, I'll just keep using the little strands. It'll be kind of annoying, but I'll sew in the ends when I'm done, or weave in the ends when I'm done, and call it a day. So I have, let's see, I have about this much left of one of the cakes that I was able to knit or wind up from the hank, and then I have another cake that's the little tiny one that should get me through the rest of the sock. So bear with me. Let's hope. Send me some good vibes that I can finish it. But if I've gotten this far with that much yarn plus the little scraps, I think I'll be okay. Before I have to start worrying about running out of yarn. So we'll see. We'll definitely see how that goes. So I'll keep knitting. And I'm trying to think about what to do about my next video, because there are some other projects that I haven't gotten through yet that I showed you earlier, and I think I might do a fast version where it's a time lapse of me working on one and it has a voiceover. So let me know if you think you might want to see that, or if you want to see me do like I'm doing with the sock, where I pick up where I left off and we just keep chatting away, and then one day it'll be done and I'll add it to the collection of things that I have yet to soak and block. But I have to get sock blocks because I plan on knitting a few more pairs of socks for people for the holidays, and it'll probably be the same pattern. Now that I know how to do it, I can do a couple really good ones once I master the Kitchener stitch, which I also think I need to watch a tutorial on, because I've knit, or I have woven or seamed with Kitchener stitch 1, 2, 3 times now, and it just looks weird. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the way that it's telling me to do it and I am doing it and it just seems weird to me, or I'm missing something. So I think I'll go to one of my trusted tutorial experts and see what they suggest about how to do Kitchener stitch, and then follow their video when I have to do mine next. So with that, I think I'm at the point where I can stop showing you how to do this sock, and one day I'll have a video of all of the projects that I've completed, and I hope that a better version of this sock will be included in it, and you'll see some of the other projects that I've completed before I started the Knit Ahead for the Holiday series. So if you've made it this far through the video, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.